that are required right now.
Yeah, the incrementality's out. You know, I mean, you're not going to make it because the consumer just has a different the shopper has a different expectation. You know, I mean, you bring up a good point. It is the perfect time for every business to rethink how it is doing business and to serve that people's needs. To your point, yes, CVS, Walgreens, a natural place to get a flu shot. Do you know where my wife and I got our flu shots? We got them at Harris Teeter, which is our grocery store, which I will be honest with you, we shop there, you know, probably once a week in person. Mm-hmm. And I never think of them having a pharmacy, right? I know they do. I am aware that they have a pharmacy, but I never thought about it. And my wife was like, well, we're here. Let's see how long it takes. It took 2 minutes. We literally, it took us longer to fill out the paperwork. We had to sign a bunch of stuff and, you know, whatever. And I'm like, well, we're already here getting our groceries. Why not? You know, yeah. So rethinking, how do I take friction out of the shopper's path to make their life easier? Because that's our expectation now. And we've got other stuff going on.
This is interesting because you take a firm like Restoration Hardware, yeah. And one of my entertainments when I went to Chicago was to visit their store, where you'd go there and just hang out, and people would be there with their laptops working in a Restoration Hardware store, because it is your office there. You can have a nice meal as well, just hang there. But what you're suggesting is that really how dramatic this change was, that we were seeing retailers transition into a space where you can do things to really a space where you get things done. It's a livable space where different activities are going on, activities that until yesterday we didn't think that retailers would be able to perform.
Sure, and they can. I'll leave you with a last example that I think is fascinating. So you talk about, you know, what you just described. Starbucks reinvented the cup of coffee into a hang and dwell, right? So yes. You know, they made that
Wi-Fi, right, and nice ambience.
Yeah. And how many people have you ever met at a at a Starbucks to have a meeting, or, you know, because you're in any city, you know, you can do it. You know what the experience is going to be. You know, it's reliable, right? So I have our daughter's 14, and she loves Starbucks, loves Starbucks, as do all her peers. And the idea of going into a Starbucks to order a beverage or food is an anathema to her. She can't process it. And so I'm like, let's go to Starbucks. And she's like, great, tell me what you want and I'll order it. And, you know, and go in and it's ready. It's amazing how different kinds of shoppers are morphing into the way they want to use a retailer versus to your point, the intention of how the retailer had set up to be used. She has zero desire to go into a Starbucks and hang out, right? And in fact, she doesn't even want to go in there and order. She wants to just go in and pick up. Actually, if they just bring it out to her car, she'd probably be happier, right? But it was amazing to me because, you know, I could just see her look of pain when I said I was going to go into the Starbucks and order, you know, a beverage. So why would you do that? You know, why it just, she couldn't process it. And it really made me think about, well, what does Starbucks want? You know, they probably don't care, you know, at the end of the day. But here's a new group of shoppers that is going to use Starbucks very differently, at least at this point in their life cycle, than I do. Because I want to go and sit down and have a cup of coffee and read a book or do my work or whatever, meet a friend.
Yeah, so Yeah, it seems to me the winners, the next winners will be those retailers who will be able to customize the shopper experience according to specific profiles.
Sure.
What you showed was two polar examples. Both should be catered or dealt with or delivered by Starbucks. Different experiences, but definitely interesting consumers for
Yep.
them. So for strategists, identifying those segments and being able to match their needs, it's definitely going to be a challenge that needs to be overcome in the short run.
I think you're right. I think you're right. And you know, a lot of people, you mentioned Walmart physically redesigning its space to adapt to a new kind of shopper. I mean, that's pretty aggressive. Not everyone's going to be able to do that, but it's what's going to be required. We're just not going to use physical spaces in the same way we did in the past, you know, and that's okay.
Great. Well, thank you so much, John.
Yes, sir.
This was really interesting. As always, many unexpected things that you said that make me think. Again, moving forward, bringing Ted, bringing other people, and allowing students to join this conversation just to listen and ask questions. I'm excited about this opportunity. I hope you'll be as well. I'm inviting you to
Let's
join
do it.
me in this
I think
journey.
I think it would be wonderful. I would love that opportunity, and I think we could bring some interesting conversations to the table as well, that are live business problems. I mean, imagine, to your point, being able to sit into a real business conversation that's going on and ask a question of, well, maybe that doesn't make sense to me. How valuable would that be for both parties, right?
Yes.
Yeah, one of the things that I know and challenge our teams with a lot of times is we're so close to things. Looking at things with a different pair of eyes is so valuable, right? At Collective Bias, we had a saying for new employees that was, tell us what you see here before you become part of the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which was, we encourage you to ask, well, why do you do it this way? Why is this like this? Not
Absolutely.
how we do it. So do it this way, right?
Good. No, great. And I don't know if I'm using or abusing you, but you're really helping me navigate through this because I'm so confused and trying to make sense of what's going on. Because we have the theories, we have thought things for a long, long time that these are the things, but now we're undergoing so many interesting things, and I'm trying to figure out how does that relate to the academic space. How does that translate into experiences that I can give to students?
Yeah.
What are the insights and learning that they can take from these real things that are going on right now that they're living through?
I 100% agree, and I think it's a confusing time for everyone, and you see it in the business conversations that are being had. I think you see it in the stock market and what
Yes.
people are betting on and how people are thinking about this. I am part of an investment group with some people that I work with, several of whom are invested in Peloton and have been for a while, and we just keep watching the price of Peloton go into the stratosphere and laughing about it. Actually, like, it just, you can't compute how how a company can have a valuation that's so far from reality. But at the same time, if Peloton becomes a lifestyle brand, it expands beyond the initial purpose, probably, and vision of the company. So maybe it is a great bet. It's like Tesla,
Yeah.
I love to hear people, pontificate, oh, Tesla's overpriced. I'm like, is it? I mean, maybe, but kind of reinventing. If you think about Tesla as an electric car, yes, the company would be overpriced.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue cars are a side a side effect of what it really does, which
Yes, the
is
computer on wheels.
developing
Yeah.
infrastructure for self-driving and autonomous vehicles. So it's hard to process what is that worth. Is it the most valuable car company in the world? Might be a stretch, but who knows? You know, I think it's interesting.
Interesting.
And,
Yeah.
and this,
So
the same thing with Alibaba and Ant Financial. You know, 1 billion people used Alipay last year, and I don't think we can quite process what that means for retail yet. But if you are a retailer with a payment system that's used by 3 times as many people that live in the United States, that is going to be impactful in the retail space globally for decades to come, you know? And so how do you process that? How do you value it? I don't know, but it's
absolutely. Well, because that's what we are seeing is just the tip of the iceberg, which is the frictionless transaction that the customers experience, right? But the ripple effect across the supply chain is still even underestimated and poorly understood.
Yep. Because once you can process that payment information back into the supply chain much more quickly, right? Because you think about it, Alibaba has a first party knowledge, not only of what's being bought on its network, but what's being bought in others. Man, that's some incredible data to be able to plan your supply chain.
Actually, that's beyond a negative cash cycle that we talk about when we talk about Dell.
Right.
So Dell built its model on getting payment from you, and then ordering the parts to build the computer, and then they would pay their suppliers, making a negative cash cycle, which was a huge differentiator for them. Now, what you're saying is that on top of that, it's really the gold that we have of our times, which is data, which is not only capturing the negative cash cycle, but it's making even more cash from that, from the data, from the knowledge of what exactly consumers are purchasing and paying for
in real time, in absolute real time. You know what is going on with
actually, so that's a collateral. So on one hand, you have your financials, which is the cash.
Right.
The other one is using that data as collateral, because that's something that you do have.
Oh, that you can process. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
You can say, look, this is something else. If you want to make a parallel, it's, for example, stores that are going into liquidation. They use inventory as collateral. They say, look, I'm going out of business, but I have this inventory. So I need to borrow some money.
Right.
So extrapolating to what you're saying, and I'm just saying this from the top of my mind because I had not thought about this, but it's such an interesting insight. It is, look, I have this data. It's processed. It's here. You want to pay for it? You want to make money with me? You want to go together with me and make money from this? This is on top of the cash that I just have here on hand to pay my suppliers.
Sure. Because you know 100% it's spent. It's coming.
It's done. Yes.
Yep. I love it.